Hey guys, Exotic Dan here. Welcome back to another video. So this video is going to be pretty similar to the one that I did yesterday where I talked about 12 YouTubers who have autism. How is this video similar to that one? Well, today we are now going to be talking about 12 celebrities who have autism. So without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So here we go. Stephen Paul Jobs was an American business magnate, industrial designer, investor, and media proprietor. He was the chairman, the chief executive officer, also known as CEO, and co-founder of Apple Incorporation, the chairman and majority shareholder of Pixar, a member of the Walt Disney Company's board of directors following its acquisition of Pixar, and the founder, chairman, and CEO of NEXT. Jobs is widely recognized as a pioneer of the personal computer revolution of the 1970s, 1980s, along with Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak. Jobs was born in San Francisco, California, and put up for adoption. He was raised in the San Francisco Bay Area. He attended Reed College in 1972 before dropping out that same year and traveled through India in 1974 seeking enlightenment and studying Zen Buddhism. Jobs and Wozniak co-founded Apple in 1976 to sell Wozniak's Apple I personal computer. Together, the duo gained fame and wealth a year later with the Apple II, one of the first highly successful mass-produced microcomputers. Jobs saw the first commercial potential of the Xerox Alto in 1979, which was mouse-driven and had a graphical user interface, also known as a GUI. This led to the development of the unsuccessful Apple Lisa in 1983, followed by the breakthrough Macintosh in 1984, the first mass-produced computer with a GUI. The Macintosh introduced the desktop publishing industry in 1985 with the addition of the Apple LaserWriter, the first laser printer to feature vector graphics. Jobs was forced out of Apple in 1985 after a long power struggle with the company's board and its then CEO, John Sculley. That same year, Jobs took a few of Apple's members with him to found NEXT, a computer platform development company that specialized in computers for higher education and business markets. In addition, he helped to develop the visual effects industry when he funded the computer graphics division of George Lucas's Lucasfilm in 1986. The new company was Pixar, which was produced and the first 3D computer animated feature film Toy Story in 1995, and went on to become a major animation studio, producing over 20 films since then. Jobs became CEO of Apple in 1997 following his company's acquisition of NEXT. He was largely responsible for helping revive Apple, which had been on the verge of bankruptcy. He worked closely with designer Jony Ive to develop a line of products that had larger cultural ramifications beginning in 1997 with the Think Different advertising campaign and leading to the iMac, iTunes Store, Apple Store, iPod, iPhone, App Store, and the iPad. In 2001, the original Mac OS was replaced with the completely new Mac OS X, now known as Mac OS, based on NEXT's Next Step platform, giving the OS a modern Unix-based foundation for the first time. Jobs was diagnosed with pancreatic neuroendocrine tumor in 2003. He died of respiratory arrest related to the tumor at age 56 on October 5, 2011. William Henry Gates III is an American business magnate, software developer, investor, author, landowner, and philanthropist. He is a co-founder of Microsoft Corporation. During his career at Microsoft, Gates held the positions of Chairman, Chief Executive Officer, also known as CEO, President, and Chief Software Architect, while also being the largest individual shareholder until May 2014. He is considered one of the best-known entrepreneurs of the microcomputer revolution of the 1970s and 1980s. Gates was born and raised in Seattle, Washington. In 1975, he co-founded Microsoft with childhood friend Paul Allen in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It went on to become the world's largest personal computer software company. Gates led the company as chairman and CEO until stepping down as CEO in January 2000, but he remained chairman and became chief software architect. During the late 1990s, he had been criticized for his business tactics, which have been considered anti-competitive. This opinion has been upheld by numerous court rulings. In June 2006, Gates announced that he would be transitioning to a part-time role at Microsoft of full-time work at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the private charitable foundation that he and his wife, Melinda Gates, established in 2000. He gradually transferred his duties to Ray Ozzie and Craig Mundy. He stepped down as chairman of Microsoft in February 2014 and assumed a new post as a technology advisor to support the newly appointed CEO, Satya Nadella. In March 2020, Gates left his board positions at Microsoft and Berkshire Hathaway to focus on his philanthropic endeavors, including climate change, global health and development, and education. Since 1987, he had been included in the Forbes list of the world's wealthiest people. From 1995 to 2017, he held the Forbes title of the richest person in the world all but 4 of those years. In October 2017, he was surpassed by Amazon founder and CEO Jeff Bezos, who had an estimated net worth of $90.6 billion US compared to Gates' net worth of $89.9 billion US at the time. As of January 2021, Gates had estimated net worth of $163 billion US, making him the 3rd richest person in the world. Later in his career, and since leaving day-to-day operations at Microsoft in 2008, Gates has pursued a number of philanthropic endeavors. He has given sizable amounts of money to various charitable organizations and scientific research programs through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, reported to be the world's largest private charity. In 2009, Gates and Warren Buffett founded the Giving Pledge, whereby they and other billionaires pledge to give at least half of their wealth to philanthropy. Albert Einstein was a German-born theoretical physicist, widely acknowledged to be one of the greatest physicists of all time. Einstein is known for developing the theory of relativity, but he also made important contributions to the development of the theory of quantum mechanics. Relativity and quantum mechanics are together the 2 pillars of modern physics. His mass-energy equivalence formula, E equals mc squared, which arises from relativity theory, has been dubbed the world's most famous equation. His work is also known for its influence on the philosophy of science. He received the 1921 Nobel Prize in Physics for his services to theoretical physics, and especially for his discovery of the law of the photoelectric effect, a pivotal step in the development of quantum theory. His intellectual achievements had originally resulted in Einstein becoming synonymous with genius. In 1905, a year sometimes described as his annus mirabilis, which means miracle year, Einstein published 4 groundbreaking papers besides his work at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern, Switzerland. These outlined the theory of the photoelectric effect, explained Brownian motion, introduced special relativity, and demonstrated mass-energy equivalence. Einstein thought that the laws of classical mechanics could no longer be reconciled with those of the electromagnetic field, which led him to develop his special theory of relativity. He then extended the theory to the gravitational fields. He published a paper on general relativity in 1916, introducing his theory of gravitation. In 1917, he applied the general theory of relativity to model the structure of the universe. He continued to deal with problems of statistical mechanics and quantum theory, which led to his explanations of particle theory and the motion of molecules. He also investigated the thermal properties of light and the quantum theory of radiation, which laid the foundation of the photon theory of light. However, for much of the later part of his career, he worked on 2 ultimately unsuccessful endeavors. First, despite his great contributions to quantum mechanics, he opposed what it evolved into, objecting that nature does not play dice. Second, he attempted to devise a unified field theory by generalizing his geometric theory of gravitation to include electromagnetism. As a result, he became increasingly isolated from the mainstream of modern physics. Einstein was born in the German Empire but moved to Switzerland in 1895, forsaking his German citizenship, which is subject of the Kingdom of Württemberg, the following year. In 1897, at the age of 17, he enrolled in the 4-year Mathematics and Physics Teaching Diploma program at the Swiss Federal Polytechnic School, later renamed as ETH Zurich. In Zurich, he graduated in 1900. In 1901, he acquired Swiss citizenship, which he kept for the rest of his life. In 1905, he was awarded a PhD by the University of Zurich. In 1914, Einstein moved to Berlin in order to join the Prussian Academy of Sciences and the Humboldt University of Berlin, and to direct the 1917 created by Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Physics. He also became a German citizen again, Persian this time. In 1933, while Einstein was visiting the United States, Adolf Hitler came to power. Einstein did not return to Germany because he objected to the policies of the newly elected Nazi-led government. He settled in the United States and became an American citizen in 1940. On the eve of World War II, he endorsed a letter to President Franklin D. Roosevelt, alerting him to the potential German nuclear weapons program and recommending that the U.S. begin similar research. Einstein supported the Allies, but he generally denounced the idea of nuclear weapons. Sir Isaac Newton, PRS, was an English mathematician, physicist, astronomer, theologian, and author, which was described in his time as natural philosopher, who is widely recognized as one of the greatest mathematicians and most influential scientists of all time, and as a key figure in the scientific revolution. His book Philosophie Naturale Principia Mathematica, which translates to Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy, first published in 1687, established classical mechanics. Newton also made some seminal contributions to optics and shares credit with Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz for developing the infinitesimal calculus. In Principia, Newton formulated the laws of motion and universal gravitation that formed the dominant scientific viewpoint until it was suspended by the theory of relativity. Newton used his mathematical description of gravity to divert Kepler's laws of planetary motion, account for tides, the trajectories of comets, and the precision of the equinoxes and other phenomena, eradicating doubt about the solar system's heliocentricity. He demonstrated that the motion of objects on Earth and celestial bodies could be accounted for the same principles. Newton's inference that the Earth is an oblate spheroid was later confirmed by geodetic measurements of Mateperimus La Condamine and others, convincing most European scientists of the superiority of Newtonian mechanics over earlier systems. Newton built the first practical reflecting telescope and developed sophisticated theory of color-based and the observation that a prism separates white light into the colors of the visible spectrum. His work on light was collected in his highly influential book, Optics, published in 1704. He also formulated an empirical law of cooling, made the first theoretical calculation of the speed of sound, and introduced the notion of a Newtonian fluid. In addition to his work on calculus as a mathematician, Newton contributed to the study of power series, generalized the binomial theorem to non-integer exponents, developed a method of approximating the roots of a function, and classified most of the cubic plane curves. Newton was a fellow of Trinity College and the second Lucian Professor of Mathematics at the University of Cambridge. Beyond his work on the mathematical sciences, Newton dedicated much of his time to the study of ultimately and biblically chronology, but most of his work in those areas remained unpublished until long after his death. Politically and personally tied to the Whig Party, Newton served 2 brief terms as Member of Parliament for the University of Cambridge in 1689 to 1690 and 1701 to 1702. He was knighted by Queen Anne in 1705 and spent the last 3 decades of his life in London, serving as a warden from 1696 to 1699 and a master from 1699 to 1727 of the Royal Mint, as well as president of the Royal Society from 1703 to 1727. Charles Robert Darwin was an English naturalist, geologist, and biologist, best known for his contributions to the science of evolution. His proposition that all species of life have descended over time from common ancestors is now widely accepted and considered a foundational concept in science. In a joint publication with Alfred Russel Wallace, he introduced his scientific theory that his branching pattern of evolution resulted from a process that he called natural selection, in which the struggle for existence has a similar effect to the artificial selection involved in selective breeding. Darwin has been described as one of the most influential figures in human history, and he was honored by burial in Westminster Abbey. Darwin published his theory of evolution with compelling evidence in his 1859 book on the origin of species. By the 1870s, the scientific community and a majority of the educated public had accepted evolution as a fact. However, many favored competing explanations which gave only a minor role to natural selection, and it was not until the emergence of the modern evolutionary sciences from the 1930s to the 1950s that a board of consensus developed in which natural selection was the basic mechanism of evolution. Darwin's scientific discovery is the unifying theory of the life sciences explaining the diversity of life. Darwin's early interest in nature led him to neglect his medical education at the University of Edinburgh. Instead, he helped to investigate marine invertebrates. Studies at the University of Cambridge, Christ's College, encouraged his passion for natural science. His 5-year voyage on HMS Beagle established him as an eminent geologist whose observations and theories supported Charles Lyell's conception of gradual geological change, and publication of his Journal of the Voyage made him famous as a popular author. Puzzled by the geographical distribution of wildlife and fossils he collected on the voyage, Darwin began detailed investigations, and in 1838 he conceived his theory of natural selection. Although he discussed his ideas with several naturalists, he needed time for extensive research, and his geological work had priority. He was writing up his theory in 1858 when Alfred Russel Wallace sent him an essay that described the same idea, prompting immediate joint publication for both of their theories. Darwin's work established evolutionary descent with modification as the dominant scientific explanation of diversification in nature. In 1871, he examined human evolution and sexual selection in the descent of man and selection in relation to sex, followed by the expression of the emotions in man and animals in 1872. His research on plants was published in a series of books, and in his final book, The Formation of Vegetable Mold Through the Actions of Worms, which was released in 1881, he examined earthworms and their effect on soil. Michelangelo di Lodovico Bonardi Somoni was an Italian sculptor, painter, architect, and poet of the high Renaissance born in the Republic of Florence who exerted an unparalleled influence on the development of Western art. His artistic versatility was such a high order that he is often considered a contender for the title of the archetypal Renaissance man, along with his rival, the fellow Florentine Leonardo da Vinci. Several scholars have described Michelangelo as the greatest artist of his age, and even as the greatest artist of all time. A number of Michelangelo's works were of painting, sculpture, and architecture rank among the most famous in existence. His output in these fields was prodigious, given the sheer volume of surviving correspondence, sketches, and reminiscences. He is the best documented artist of the 16th century. He sculpted 2 of his best-known works, the Pietà and David, before the age of 30. Despite a low opinion of painting, he also created 2 of the most influential frescoes in the history of Western art. The scenes from Genesis on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel in Rome, and the Last Judgment on its altar wall. His design of the Laurentian Library pioneered Mannerist architecture. At the age of 74, he succeeded Antonin da Sangalo the Younger as the architect of the St. Peter's Basilica. He transformed the plan so that the western end was finished to his design, as was the dome, with some modification after his death. Michelangelo was the first Western artist whose biography was published while he was alive. In fact, 2 biographies were published during his lifetime. One of them, by Giorgio Vasari, proposed that Michelangelo's work was transcended, that of any artist, living or dead, was supreme in not one art alone, but in all 3. In his lifetime, Michelangelo was often called Tu Divino, which is translated to the Divine One. His contemporaries often admired his terribilia, his ability to instill a sense of awe. Attempts by subsequent artists to imitate Michelangelo's impassioned, highly personal style resulted in Mannerism, the next major movement in Western art after the High Resonance. Timothy Walter Burton is an American film director, producer, writer, and artist. Known for his gothic, fantasy, and horror films such as Beetlejuice in 1988, Edward Scissorhands in 1990, The Nightmare Before Christmas in 1993, Ed Wood in 1994, Sleepy Hollow in 1999, Corpse Bride in 2005, Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street in 2007, and Frank Weenie in 2012. Burton also directed the superhero films Batman in 1989 and Batman Returns in 1992, the sci-fi film Planet of the Apes in 2001, the fantasy drama Big Fish in 2003, the musical adventure film Charlie and the Chocolate Factory in 2005, and the fantasy films Alice in Wonderland in 2010, and Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children in 2016. Burton has often worked with actor Johnny Depp and composer Danny Elfman, who has composed scores for all but 3 of his films Burton had directed. Helena Bonham Carter, Burton's former domestic partner, has appeared in many of his films. He wrote and illustrated the poetry book The Melancholy Death of Oyster Boy and Other Stories, published in 1997 by British publishing house Faber and Faber, and a compilation of his drawings, sketches, and other artwork entitled The Art of Tim Burton was released in 2009. A follow-up to that book entitled The Napkin Art of Tim Burton, Things You Think About in a Bar, containing sketches made by Burton on napkins at bars and restaurants he visited, was released in 2015. His accolades include nominations for 2 Academy Awards and 3 BAFTA Awards, and wins for an Emmy Award and a Golden Globe Award. Susan Magdalene Boyle is a Scottish singer. She rose to fame after appearing as a contestant on the 3rd series of Britain's Got Talent, singing I Dreamed of a Dream from Les Miserables. Boyle's debut studio album, I Dreamed a Dream, was released in November 2009 and became the UK's best-selling debut album of all time, beating previous record held by Spirit by Luana Lewis. I Dreamed a Dream set a record for biggest first week sales by a debut album according to the official charts company. In her first year of fame, Boyle made £5 million, which is £6.8 million today, with the release of I Dreamed a Dream and its lead-off singles I Dreamed a Dream and Wild Horses. The success was continued with her second studio album, The Gift 2010, where she became only the 3rd act ever to top both the UK and US album charts twice in the same year, and was followed by Boyle's 3rd studio album, Someone to Watch Over Me, in 2011. She subsequently released the studio album Standing Ovation, The Greatest Songs from the Stage, in 2012, Home for Christmas in 2013, Hope in 2014, Wonderful World in 2016, and 10 in 2019. On May 12, 2012, Boyle returned to Britain's Got Talent to perform as a guest in the final, singing You'll See. The following day, she performed at Windsor Castle for the Queen's Diamond Jubilee pageant, singing Mull of Kintyre. Having performed I Know Him So Well in a duet with one of her idols, Elaine Paige, in London in December 2009, Boyle performed with her other musical idol, Donny Osmond in Las Vegas in 2012 singing This Is the Moment, a duet from her fourth album. Her net worth was estimated at £22 million in April 2012. She is known for supporting various charitable causes and has appeared on the UK charity telethons BBC Children in Need and Comic Relief. As of 2013, Boyle had sold over 19 million albums worldwide and received 2 Grammy Awards and nominations. On July 23rd, she performed Mull of Kintyre at the opening ceremony of the 2014 Commonwealth Games in front of the Queen. As of 2021, Boyle has sold 19 million records and has an estimated net worth of £22 million. Daryl Christine Hannah is an American actress. She made her screen debut in Brian De Palma's supernatural horror film The Furry in 1978. She has starred in various movies across the years, including at Price Stationery in Ridley Scott's science fiction thriller Blade Runner in 1982, and as Kathy Featherstone in Rattle Killer's romantic comedy Summer Lovers in 1982, as the mermaid Madison in Ron Howard's fantasy romantic comedy Splash in 1984, Roxanne Kowalski in the romantic comedy Roxanne in 1987, Darren Taylor in Oliver Stone's drama Wall Street in 1987, and Emily Dupuy-Destow in the comedy drama Steel Magnolias in 1989. In 2004, Hannah won a Saturn Award for her role as one-eyed assassin eel driver in Quentin Tarantino's 2-part material arts action film Kill Bill. In 2015, she appeared in the Netflix series Sense8 as Angelica Turning. Stanley Kubrick was an American film director, producer, screenwriter, and photographer. He is frequently cited as one of the greatest filmmakers in cinematic history. His films, which are mostly adaptations of novels or short stories, cover a wide range of genres and are noted for their realism, dark humor, unique cinematography, extensive set designs, and innovative use of music. Kubrick was raised in the Bronx, New York City, and attended William Howard Taft High School from 1941 to 1945. He received average grades, but displayed a keen interest in literature, photography, and film from a young age, and taught himself all aspects of film production and directing after graduating from high school. After working as a photographer for Look magazine in the late 1940s and early 1950s, he began making short films on shoestring budget and made his first major Hollywood film, The Killing for United Artists, in 1956. This was followed by 2 collaborations with Kirk Douglas, the war picture Paths of Glory in 1957, and the historical epic Spartacus in 1960. Curative differences arising from his work with Douglas and the film studios, a dislike of the Hollywood industry, and a growing concern about crime in America prompted Kubrick to move to the United Kingdom in 1961, where he spent most of the remainder of his life and career. His home at Childwickbury Manor in Hertfordshire, which he shared with his wife, Christine, became his workplace, where he did writing, research, editing, and management of production details. This allowed him to have almost complete artistic control over his films, but with the rare advantage of having financial support from major Hollywood studios. His first productions in Britain were 2 films with Peter Sellers, Lotelia in 1962 and Dr. Strangelove in 1964. A demanding perfectionist, Kubrick assumed control over most aspects of the filmmaking process, from direction and writing and to editing, and took painstaking care with researching his films and staging scenes, working in close coordination with his actors and other collaborators. He often asked for several dozen retakes of the same shot in a movie, which resulted in many conflicts with his casts. Despite the resulting notoriety among actors, many of Kubrick's films broke new ground in cinematography. The scientific realism and innovative special effects of 2001: A Space Odyssey in 1968 were without precedent in the history of cinema, and the film earned him his only personal Oscar for Best Visual Effects. Steven Spielberg has referred to the film as his generation's Big Bang. It is regarded as one of the greatest films ever made. For the 18th century period, film Barry Lyndon in 1975, Kubrick obtained lenses developed by Zeiss for NASA to film scenes under natural candlelight. With The Shining in 1980, he became one of the first directors to make use of a Steadicam for stabilized and fluid tracking shots. While many of Kubrick's films were controversial and initially received mixed reviews upon release, particularly A Clockwork Orange in 1971, which Kubrick pulled from circulation in the UK following a mass media frenzy, most were nominated for Oscars and Golden Globes, or BAFTA awards, and underwent critical re-evaluations. His last film, Eyes Wide Shut, was completed shortly before his death in 1999 at the age of 70. Edmund Gerald Brown Jr. is an American lawyer and politician who served as the 34th and 39th Governor of California from 1975 to 1983 and 2011 to 2019. A member of the Democratic Party, he was elected Secretary of State of California in the early 1970s. Brown later served as mayor of Oakland from 1999 to 2007 and Attorney General of California from 2007 to 2011. He was both the oldest and sixth youngest governor of California due to the 28-year gap between his second and third terms. Upon completing his fourth term in office, Brown became the third largest serving governor in the U.S. history, serving 16 years and 5 days in office. Born in San Francisco, he was the son of Bernice Lane Brown and Pat Brown, who was the 32nd governor of California from 1959 to 1967. After graduating from the University of California, Berkeley, and Yale University, he practiced law and began his political career as a member of the Los Angeles Community College District Board of Trustees from 1969 to 1971. He was elected to serve as the 23rd Secretary of State of California from 1971 to 1975. At 36, Brown was elected to his first term as governor in 1974, making him the youngest California governor in 111 years. In 1978, he won his second term. During his governorship, Brown ran unsuccessfully as candidate for the Democratic presidential nomination in 1976 and 1980. He declined to pursue a third term as governor in 1982, instead making an unsuccessful run for the United States Senate that same year. After traveling abroad, he returned to California and served as the sixth chairman of the California Democratic Party from 1989 to 1991, attempting to run for U.S. President once more in 1992. He then moved to Oakland, where he hosted a talk radio show. Brown soon returned to the public life, serving as mayor of Oakland from 1999 to 2007 and Attorney General of California from 2007 to 2011. He ran for his third and fourth terms as governor in 2010 and 2014, as his eligibility to do so having stemmed from California's constitutional grandfather clause. On October 7, 2013, he became the largest serving governor in the history of California, surpassing Earl Warren. Currently, Brown serves on the Science of Security Board for the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, connecting the organization to the outside experts and providing the bulletin perspective on trends and issues concerning nuclear risk, climate change, and disruptive technologies. We are now on our last celebrity, who is Satoshi Tajiri, who is a Japanese video game designer and director best known as the creator of Nintendo's Pokemon franchise and one of the founders and president of video game developer Game Freak. A fan of arcade games, Tajiri wrote for and edited his own video gaming franchise, Game Freak with Ken Sugimori, before evolving it into a development company of the same name. Tajiri claims that the joining of the two Game Boys via a link cable inspired him to create a game which embodied the collection of companionship of his childhood hobby, insect collecting. The game, which became Pokemon Red and Pokemon Green, took 6 years to complete and went on to spark a multi-billion-dollar franchise which reinvigorated Nintendo's handheld gaming. Tajiri continued to work as director for the Pokemon series until the development of Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, when he changed his role to executive producer. Tajiri has also worked for other projects, including Mario spin-offs. He was also an executive producer on the live-action film Detective Pikachu. And with that, I think this is where I'm going to end off today's video. If you guys happen to enjoy this video or found this video useful, please make sure to hit that like button, and also don't forget to subscribe because I do videos every single day. And also don't forget to ring that notification bell so you never miss a single video that I upload on this channel. And also don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell on my second channel. My second channel will be the third link in the description below. And if you guys would like to send me fan art, you guys can send me fan art on my Instagram. My Instagram will be the second link in the description below. And if you guys would like to join my ROBLOX fan group, my ROBLOX fan group will be the first link in the description below. And if you guys would like to follow me on Twitter, my Twitter will be the fourth link in the description below. And if you guys would like to follow me on Reddit, my Reddit will be the fifth link in the description below. And if you guys would like to follow me on TikTok, my TikTok will be the sixth link in the description below. And until then, I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye!